This is Ed in San Diego, and this is a picture I took Broadway. I'm at the Embarcadero where the cruise ships come in, and that's looking down Broadway. As you can see, it's a showcase. Not all of San Diego looks like this, but right down the street here, this is what it looks like. And it's very attractive, of course. So question number one about attracting people and talent from across time and space. Once again, this is from Gemini. Given California's position as a hub for digital innovation, what are the most effective strategies for a company to not just manage, but leverage the productivity gains and compliance challenges of working with global talent across extreme time zones? Andreea, welcome from Romania, from Bucharest again. Lovely to have you. You look terrific.
And thank you again for having me.
Yeah, you bet. So about talent, educated talent like yourself, I would imagine there's an interest for local talent to want to connect with people like us, Ken and I here in Southern California, Rigoberto in Mexico City, and others we're going to have on subsequent editions to this show going forward from around the world. This is the global meeting room, in other words, the broadcast studio, using my Zoom. I affectionately call this the global meeting room. We want to make it a psychologically safe place for greeting people and exchanging ideas. Ken, this sounds normal, doesn't it?
Why not?
Rigoberto, welcome.
Thank you, Ed.
Yeah. So, Rigoberto, tell us a little bit about your relatively new position. I think in the last few months, you've joined or rejoined and doing more things. Please tell us about it.
Yeah, thank you, Ed. Well, I rejoined to CIBT Visas, which actually it's like the acronym of Center of International Business Travel, which means that we are part of the travel industry, which is a huge industry where typically people think in airplanes, hotels, taxis, and all the parties involved around traveling internationally. But specifically, I'm in charge of processing visas. So it's a very entertaining business because visa requirements change in every country. And well, nowadays, due to the global circumstances we are having in general, well, requirements are changing constantly, but at the same time, business keep flowing and keep moving. So the world is not stopping. On the contrary, the world keeps moving, and we have many clients requiring visas. So that's
yeah, it's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. So just as an aside, Latino Metrics, I believe is the name of the company that's based in New York. And they do a lot of research, economic research about Latin America and particularly Mexico. They just recently published a new thing that they sent to me, and not just to me, but I'm sure to other media, about Mexico has overtaken China as the #1 trading partner of the U.S. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? Rigo.
Yeah, no, for sure. Even that China it's far away from Mexico, so it's more expensive. It takes more time to travel there. But yeah, I see that in the business, in the visa business, where we are processing now more visas for China that for the US. So yeah, China it keeps growing.
So there's not just the U.S., but other countries that are have opened up factories in Mexico because of the ease of entry into whatever NAFTA is called now. I forget the economic development. I don't know. What's it called? The new NAFTA.
The
North
new laws.
American free
Uh,
trade or something?
yeah, no, that's a good question.
I know.
They have changed many times the name that I don't know what's the latest one, but yeah, let's keep it with NAFTA.
Yeah, okay. That means Canada, US, Mexico basically are merging their economies. And President Bill Clinton actually signed that legislation way back in the 90s. And
Yeah.
yeah, so, and it's certainly developed. And that's super cool. Andrea, what do you think of this discussion so far? Is it interesting to you being, um, well, you're here in the global meeting room, so you're right here, but you're across time and space, quite a distance.
So when it comes to, attracting talent, because if we think about the potential that California has and the initial team that we started, I think thinking about the global perspectives, diversity of thought is always important, whatever hub you choose to develop. So, of course, if we think about California and its potential, I'm sure that thinking about the next productivity level that the authorities want to achieve can definitely be achieved by a broader global presence. So we can think about, as you were saying initially, to have virtual talents chiming in and helping the culture there grow. But I am in favor of, always thinking about face-to-face interactions and actually having people there able to experience the culture and also to bring their own flavor into the local culture as well. So I think it's going to be a huge potential for investment.
Everybody, this is Andreea Muntaneu. She's in Bucharest, Romania, which is, so let's see, what time is it there now? It's 10-hour difference, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 6 p.m. So yeah.
Yeah, okay. And what time do you usually eat dinner?
Around 7, if I can say like that. So of course it depends. Most probably after we finish here, I'm going to grab my dinner and a glass of wine. So yeah.
Okay, cheers. Thank you very much. Uh,
Cheers.
I've only had one cup of coffee so far. Here it's 8:13. So when this show's over, I'm going to have my own breakfast and then go out for a walk. Uh, so I have to tell you that in mid-September, I weighed some personal stuff here. I weighed 216, okay, which is a little bit heavy. Um, my doctor says you're just below the obesity range, so start losing weight. I said, me, obese? That's not like that's not how I viewed my brand. That's not me. And he said, yeah, well, that's how others are. Anyway, I'm now down to 187. Okay. And so Joanne has also been on a weight thing. Of course, I don't put too much pressure on him. But so we're doing some things together and we go out for walks. Yesterday we walked about 13,000 steps and she keeps track of it on her pedometer, which is on her phone. And I just tag along, but I count the steps too. Anyway, this is some international news, right? So, Ken, leveraging productivity gains by welcoming people who have similar skills but live and work in way different cultures. This is a good idea, isn't it?
It's a wonderful idea. It's what really makes not only organizations terrific, it makes people that much more terrific as well. With the exposure and experience working with others from around the world, different views, perspectives, understanding, and that's all quite enriching for all the players involved. I agree with Andrea. It's nice to have it absolutely face to face. Well, this is great, wonderful. What a miracle this is to be able to have these kinds of meetings there is something clearly to be said to really enrich and mix the cultures by having face-to-face interaction and occupational kinds of activities together.
Andrea, you are an accredited coach from ICF, International Coaching Federation, and you're based in Bucharest, Romania. And tell us about the specialty kind of coach that you are.
So yeah, that's right. And I mean, I wanted to have a more niched approach, let's say. And I've always been passionate about leadership development and, let's say, talent development in general. So I decided to pursue the coaching education in terms of trying to understand more about neuro leadership. So it's about how to integrate the brain-based coach methodologies into developing, leaders or in general people that want to have a broader scope. And besides being a catchy phrase, if I can say like that, it's also related to understanding what works best for someone to develop. And of course, thinking about how to achieve what you want by trying to keep a positive state rather than being motivated by a threat or about, from negative stuff. So I'm really passionate about it.
Ken, what do you think of that?
I think it's excellent. I think for a person either in a leadership position or seeking one, to have an insightful professional that they can speak to honestly and candidly about where they'd like to go, and to get some help and guidance and support in how to get there, to get rid of a lot of the mythology that seems to be attached to what leadership is and isn't, and really learn some steps and strategies to improve your life and your career is just great. Have that from an expert like Andrea is just, it's literally a gift for people. I think it's terrific.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Ken.
Thank you. So back to Gemini here. So that was question one, just as a review. How can people and companies leverage productivity gains and compliance challenges of working with global talent across time zones? And we just did some dancing around that topic here. We can always come back to that. Question two is a little bit different. Again, this is from AI, Gemini. How can businesses move beyond simple virtual meetings to create a continuous, always on engagement model with partners who are in distant markets like Asia Pacific or Eastern Europe or wherever? Latin America, of course, is huge. Mexico is right next to us here in Southern California, but Latin America goes way down to Antarctica, and that's a long trip. We know from looking at the map. So always on, ensuring true collaboration and avoiding digital fatigue. So, Andrea, what do you think about digital fatigue? We're trying to keep this conversational and sort of entertaining as much as possible without wasting people's time. And if you ever feel as if I should tighten up, and make things a little bit more, just tell me, but it's really not my style. Is that okay, Rigoberto?
Yeah. Yeah,
You don't
so
know what to say, huh?
yeah, no, so the question is about digital fatigue in or
Yeah, right. Digital fatigue. Oh, another Zoom call.
yeah, no, it's I guess we spent like I don't know, maybe 8 hours at least per day on the computer. Um, what really caused me fatigue is what it happened next after working 8 hours in a computer, because the other distractions you may have are something like Netflix, which is still on a screen, or a cell phone, or it keeps with the screens in front of your face. So definitely, face interaction or real interaction with real people, it's key for, I would say, for surviving, for having a life. There is no other way. Personally, what it happens to me is that I avoid to see a streaming wherever is on the TV after working because it doesn't help me after being 8 hours in a computer. So that's digital fatigue for me.
So earlier on an earlier show, you told us that you have a young son that you really love and enjoy spending time. How old is your son now?
9 years old.
9, yeah. And is he a Zoom expert now?
Not yet, but I just saw his curriculum or syllabus, and for because he's now starting vacations. We have vacations here in Mexico for the Easter week, 2 weeks only, and then he's coming back. And part of the syllabus is that he has to record a podcast. And it's for me, it's like, really, why? It's like, oh no, even the system and the school is involving him into this new era of recording yourself. But I cannot stop him. I mean, it's a way that he certainly would help him to listen himself and to interact with others and expand his speech and so on. So it's interesting.
Isn't that interesting? Ken, what do you think of that?
Well, I mean, that's the world. I mean, the world is so technologically different. I would, at the same time, hope that the program includes non, if you will, virtual or tech time for the children to go out, to run around, to play, to leave all the technology behind. And that applies to adults too, to take some time, literally every day, to turn this technology off, go out, take a walk. Ed, you mentioned the 13,000 steps, but to get some fresh air, to look at nature. And that's really how we evolved. We didn't evolve with all of this. And our minds, our brains, our bodies do need some getaway time where we just turn all of this down. I would certainly hope that's the case for children, and not that they would go from podcast, then to the cell phone, then to doing some other programming and coding and all, but to spend some time running around in the play yard, playing games, enjoying and talking and succeeding and sometimes not succeeding, and dealing with all the social aspects of growing up as well. But I certainly like the idea, along with a full program that really focuses on a much broader sphere and range of development.
Andrea?
I guess what can describe this actually to be offline, and I hate this, saying it's a very common corporate phrase. And when I think about being offline, I mean this is real life. It's not like we need to switch our mindset from being attached to a computer versus being in nature. It's not. It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't need to be like that. But unfortunately, yeah, digital fatigue is way more common these days because ultimately we do our jobs for the majority of the time in front of a digital device. And I'm not even speaking about office jobs only. I can also speak about people on the fields. They have a device at some point that they need to interact with. So it's your choice at the end of the day, and it can be a habit of just disconnecting everything related to technology and go back to your life.
Yeah. So this is, as I mentioned, downtown San Diego, one of the corners. This one is Broadway, going down that street there. And I'm standing with the ocean behind me at San Diego Harbor. And this is the cruise ship terminal area. This is what cruise ship people see when they land, when they come into port. Right to either side of me is office buildings and parks and restaurants and bars. It doesn't look like this. It looks more like just that kind of building that I just described. Uh, but the walkways are fabulous and clean and safe. Welcome to San Diego someday. So another question, moving on, about across borders and cultures. Again, this is from Gemini. What is the single most critical yet often overlooked nonverbal or cultural communication barrier that must be addressed to successfully strengthen interpersonal rapport in international deal making? Okay, nonverbal. What are the barriers? And how can cross-cultural training be integrated into the communication process? Andreea.
First of all, when it comes to global perspectives, we need to think about the necessity that each culture has to be listened, or at least to feel like it's listened. Um, and I love that you mentioned the non-verbal barrier, because you don't necessarily need to speak or to see someone in front of you that listens to you, or to have the perception that they listen to you. But it's also related to, if you were heard during an interaction, then that person should be able to either, stick to the point that it was important for you, to act like they care about what matters to you, and to, ultimately to feel seen. So if we think about barriers in terms of nonverbal barriers, I would say that the first thing and the most obvious one is the time zone. Um, I come from a global experience, and I've always worked with all sorts of cultures. And I mean it, like, from thinking about having calls at 4 a.m. to catch up with the APAC teams versus staying late until, I don't know, 9 or 10 p.m. For the US folks. So it has such a huge impact on your energy as a person, and how much you can deliver and how you present yourself in front of people. So that's a 100% a non-verbal barrier, because in my opinion, at some point, regardless of your expertise and your, I don't know, your type of person, either if you're an introvert or an extrovert, at some point your battery drains. So it's a huge limitation for someone to really express what they need to express if they feel drained. So we really need to, foster that type of, let's say, idea in mind, that we need to protect ourselves and also our colleagues if we think about the workload and the time zones. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big problem. And the daylight savings time switch is really messing things up. Even though it's only like 1
True.
hour difference, I mean, it makes a difference. Because I still not sure what time it is in London, whether it's 7, it used to be 8 hours, and now it's only 7. So, but you're still 10 hours rather than 9, which is Central European time. You're on the eastern side. You're actually southeast, right?
So the daylight savings actually switched for everyone now. I know that the US was, were part of the first ones to switch that, and then we did too. So we came back, to the usual time difference.
Yeah. Okay. Great. All right. So it's 8:29 a.m. here in California, and so it's 6:29 where you are.
Yeah, that's correct, and it should be
18:29.
yeah, that's Good point. And it should be 4:30 p.m. for our UK colleagues. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. And Rigoberto, what time is it now in Mexico City?
Just now it's 9:30.
So it's only 1 hour difference from California.
Right.
Wow. Okay. But that used to be called Central Time, but it's not Central now, is it?
Um, uh, well, we didn't switch the time so we keep with the central, but the older version, and
Yeah.
yeah, so I don't know why.
So you see how confusing it can be. Just a simple thing, and
I
an
know.
hour off is you're going to miss an important call in
And
four
and
days.
and I and I got crazy because all my devices synchronized with the US, and then I had like thousands of meetings, and they were scheduled automatically, and I was running like a chicken without head
Well,
until I
I've
fix
been
it.
doing the same thing. I said, what time is it? And God. Anyway, this is serious business here. I really want to do more international calls, but I'm concerned. I have to keep checking Google, and I Google, it's 8 a.m. California. What time is it now okay, word to the wise. Another question. Gemini says, how should a California business adapt its core values, which are often fast-paced and direct, to resonate with partners and employees in cultures that prioritize slower, trust-based, earned, long-term relationship building? Andrea, this must be very common.
It is a common theme, but I think it's not applicable only for California. In your case, you were mentioning that the two values are the fast-paced environment and the direct approach. I think it's something that would be common for the US in general. If we think about our way of doing business, when I say our, I mean, let's say the Balkan side of Europe, we have the same type of approach. I think it's just a matter of understanding what the other needs. So, of course, in your example, if you want to have an interaction with someone that is more on relationship rapport and the building trust before doing business, you need to learn how to work with that. My mentor at some point said that you don't need to force the other person to change the way they communicate. You need to adapt yours to the way that they want to hear the communication. So it's just about adaptability.
So Dr. Ken Lloyd is a multi-time author. For years, he was a syndicated columnist for the New York Times. He wrote a Dear Abby kind of column. Ken, it wasn't Dear Abby, it was Dear Ken or Dear Doctor or Help
Oh
Me
dear.
Doctor.
Yeah, these are such good points. I mean, Andrea mentioning the importance of listening, and in the broadest sense, it's really trying to understand the individual and the culture that you're going to be dealing with. Americans, at least in the past, were also thought of as, kind of in quotes, the ugly American, coming in, making a lot of noise, talking too fast, wanting everything now, instead of trying to really understand those with whom we're dealing. And it applies internationally, of course. It applies in America as well. There are various parts of this country that are culturally different. The South is culturally quite different from the rest of the US. If you go in and try and do business in the South, and instead of speaking the way I'm speaking now, you start talking a little bit faster and say, look, there are a lot of things we want to get done, and we have to take, they're not going to trust you. Slow it down, listen, pay attention. The point is to really be as understanding and as patient and as responsive as we can be to understand the individuals with whom we're dealing. And that means also addressing our expectations. If you expect things to go a certain way, whether it's based on culture or any other factors, you're going to influence your behavior, and that's going to influence the response that you get. To the point that if you think someone is going to be difficult to deal with for whatever reason, you're going to engage in behaviors, speech patterns, and other activities that demonstrate that, and that individual or group of individuals will respond in a difficult way. You will draw out the very behaviors that you expect. So key point is to just do it as Andreea said, listen, focus, understand, and look at yourself as well. What's going on inside of me as I continue with this?
So I'm holding up Ken's book, one of the books, and I don't know if you can read this thing, so I'm going to read you the title. Performance Appraisals and Phrases for Dummies. And it's a really thick book. So, Ken, this is aimed at Americans, but would people from a different culture look at the subtitle for Dummies and feel offended by that?
Well,
that wasn't even considered at the time.
That's a fair question. If the book had just had some random and derogatory term in it, that instead of dummies, for people who just don't know what in the world they're doing on the job, that would be insulting. I think people with that dummies brand understand that it is in a light way for all of us to try to learn more. I mean, it can be coding for dummies. It doesn't mean that you're unintelligent at all or that you are in quotes a dummy, but you have a desire to learn more about a particular topic. So I think the brand is out there and understood well enough. It's not just Ken Lloyd calling people dummies, but rather here's a brand that's designed to help you educate yourself in an easy, hands-on way. And the topics in many of their books are certainly international and can help people lead, learn, manage, and grow in all sorts of areas. And the idea is that it's not this big academic treatise filled with studies and research and footnotes, but rather, here's how to do these things. And in that sense, that's where that word is coming into play.
Oh boy. I wish I could say this was rehearsed, but it's, as you can see, it's not rehearsed. So you take what it is and please stay with us. Another question. This is based on an article that I wrote for an international real estate magazine based in London about the role of FDI, foreign direct investment, and where does the money go and who's spending the money and what do they do and how do the local communities where this money's flowing into for economic development of the local area, what does the local power structure do with the money? And then the idea of hiring talent from across time, from across borders. It could be from state borders, from California to Mississippi, or from New York to Kentucky, and what's happening in Oklahoma in terms of economic development, and who's buying land. Is it the Chinese? Is it the Polish? Is it people from Romania investing in land development in Texas? And so for what purpose? So FDI, foreign direct investment. On the local level, LED, FDI, foreign direct investment, and then local LED, local economic development, companies, organizations, associations, and the people connected with that cohesion. And what's going to be done with that money? That means land development, building a factory, building distribution, building something. And then the attraction of talent to fill new jobs. And where's that talent coming from? And this is the world of real estate, the world of relocation management. Mobility is a fancy word. So my article tied it all together and I'll be glad to share that article with you later. So AI picked up on that, and they formulated this question. Focusing in on the FDI LED relo continuum, once again, foreign direct investment, local economic development, and the relocation services industry. What essential inter-industry collaboration, perhaps between tech, finance, and relocation services, is necessary in California to create a complete and attractive soft landing package for new foreign-owned enterprises? That's a mouthful, isn't it? There's a lot to unpack there. But it all means, okay, this is a big deal happening, whether it's Saudi Arabia investing into California or whether it's Elon Musk investing into somewhere else. Okay, all of that is huge money, influx, have to guard against corruption and who's getting paid to do things, and then what happens to you force people to step aside, local people, and let newcomers come in and take these high-tech jobs. This is a huge actual problem and full of issues. Andreea, what do you see happening in Romania in this regard? And what do you see from your perspective, looking at what's happening with big organizations, foreign governments, organizations, partnerships, investing into areas like data centers is the new thing now?
I can definitely speak from the, HR perspective of how you can attract and ultimately keep talent in the area, because I think that should be the goal. You don't need to only hire someone and hope for them to do their best for 1 month and they can just move to another company. It's about retaining talent too. So if we think about, of course, we can think about the FDIs in terms of the business, pros and cons. But going back to the people, as soon as you hear or you know that there is going to be a future investment or a future development in an area, people start to get interested about it. Because first of all, it's always the chase in the market for a better job. It's always going to be something that is new and attractive to the market just because it hasn't been done before, or it can mean that I, as an employee, I can have a higher salary. This is the, let's say, misconception of people thinking that if they apply to a job to another company, they will ultimately have a higher salary than their current position, which is not necessarily true. Like, you can definitely have a job application in another place and get disappointed about the package in general. But I think it's about how well advertised is that foreign investment for the area. And it doesn't need to be necessarily only Romania or another country, or in your case, the California area. I think it's about making sure that you choose the right investment for the future talent, thinking about their compensation, thinking about their benefits for you as an employer. What do you bring different to the market? How can you develop these people further? How can you take advantage of their skills because you hired them for their talents, and make sure that you foster those and you grow those in a way that can be a win-win for both parties. They stay and they help you grow as a business, but you also invest in their own talents.
So, Rigo, we're going to get to you and your expertise, which is immigration. for this purpose. But Romania has been a hotbed of corporate investment because of the cost of living issues are lower. There's no issue that it's cost effective for companies to open up offices in Romania. Isn't that right?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, if you compare Romania to the US in general, but if I can just compare for the sake of the exercise, Bucharest to New York, of course, it's cheaper to invest in Bucharest to have a hub. The only non-verbal barrier, going back to the previous question, would be the time zone, and of course, would be the fact that you have people here and not in the US. So probably you need to adapt to some cultural differences and so on. But yes, it's way cheaper.
And the quality of life is European and perhaps more formal, or what? Please tell us about the cultural difference, say, between New York and Bucharest, from a business point of view.
From the business perspective, I wouldn't really compare the, let's say, quality of life other than just pointing to the direction of you do business in a different way. And it can be, you can still see some tangible items related to we are a direct culture. We sometimes we are fast paced, but we also have that sort of a Latino side of enjoying life. We know how to be resilient. We know how to build trust and be respectful and so on. And we have lots of things in common with the, let's say, New Yorkers when it comes to the business side. But you need to be aware that there are some things that can be potentially different, like, again, pointing to the direction of how we see life. It's not related to the business, but it affects the business. A very common joke when we think about the two cultures, and I speak now about European versus US, is the fact that Europeans have vacations and we are offline in our vacations. Whereas the joke, unfortunately, points to the fact that an American will probably always work and you are very dedicated to your work. When it comes to, the business side, probably people will be biased. So I don't know, that can be a drawback.
Rigo, welcome to the show. You work for a very large company involved with immigration, and that means skilled people coming into a community.
Yeah, I was listening carefully what Andrea was saying about Romania, and I'm not entirely sure, but I guess Andrea is the second Romanian that I met in my life. I met a Romanian guy like 3 or 4 months ago here in Mexico City in my new job, and he was telling me precisely these similarities between Romanian and Spanish, which I got surprised at because my bias about Romania is that they speak like Germans or Russians, very complicated languages, and this is not true. That was a bias for myself, because actually I met that guy. He worked for KPMG, and he was about to sign a power of attorney for. He was a international tax representative, and he needed to sign that power of attorney in front of a I don't know how the notary, in front of a notary. So it was a legal procedure, and I had to translate this document from Spanish to English just to make sure that he was understanding everything. And at the end of the day, we got some rapport with that guy. I have his name, but I don't remember at all. But he was telling me that you don't need to translate me everything. I understand a few words of Spanish because it comes from the Romance and Latin culture and so on. So. I mean, just to give my point, this guy tell me that Romania is underrated when you compare with other European countries in regards of that it's a nice place, it's not that expensive, and you can have even vacations there of doing business over there. And it's not like going to France or Italy where they are super expensive places. But I just wanted to share with you that.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. Andrea, would you like to comment before we get to Dr. Ken Lloyd?
I mean, I can only say thank you, and I'm happy that my the previous single Romanian guy that you met made such a good impression. We have similarities. It's true, but I think even thinking about this group, we are a mix. We are definitely a mix. It cannot be a more international meeting room than this. So I mean, I love the idea of seeing people from different cultures that share the same values and learn from the others that don't, and potentially you change your perspective. Again, it's the diversity of thought.
Ken.
Yeah, well, Rigoberto just demonstrated exactly what we're talking about. Here he had met this fellow from Romania, and he had some ideas, some thoughts, some expectations, and it's even the word bias, as I don't mean that in a negative way, in dealing with the person from this country. And he went in with an open mind, with empathy. He listened, he observed, and he learned, and he built a very nice friendship and relationship with this individual that going forward can help strengthen the work and the effectiveness of what they're both involved with. That's how to do it. And Rigoberto just demonstrated it.
Yeah, it's really a great conversation. We're going to move on here. We have about 10 minutes remaining. Okay, the next question from AI. Beyond simple trade, what policy or partnership is needed to ensure that successful FDI, foreign direct investment, directly benefits and uplifts local small to mid-size enterprises and breaks down the silo between large-scale foreign investment and local business people? That's kind of a big question, isn't it? I'm not sure what to do with it. Does anybody want to comment on that? No, let's just move on. Okay, this is about across generations. How are the expectations for international assignments, and career mobility changing across generations today? Say Gen X, which is people in the 30s, 40s, and Gen Z, which is like my granddaughter who's 27, that kind of thing. And what flexible global mobility programs must companies adopt to attract and retain younger, globally minded talent? Andrea, is that clear? Should I repeat that?
No, it's clear. Thank you. I think I can maybe point to
So
a few
cultural
different
differences
things.
between the generations, that kind of thing.
True. So when it comes to mobility, the main thing that I think about is the idea of the family integrated in the idea of you being mobile. So how does the company support your family how can you ensure that the switch between cultures can benefit and not harm the environment that you have at home. And if we think about mobility in general, I'm tempted to say that, for example, Gen X could potentially be more interested in integrating the family core into the new role of the mobile person, versus Gen Z being more, interested to learn and travel, like solo traveling, and trying to make the best out of that experience. So, to give you an example, it's also about the age. When we think about Gen X, probably we don't necessarily think about larger families that need to travel with a Gen X mobile employee. It can be, in the majority of times, a solo traveler, someone that doesn't necessarily have a spouse, so they probably don't have kids. So it's most probably going to be linked to how are they integrated better in the new culture. So you need to have one person in mind. When it comes to Gen X and later generations, probably it's going to be about a family or a group that needs to be integrated in that discussion as well.
So, Ken, this is about knowledge transfer and mentorship, isn't it?
In part, yes, but if you will, in a broad sense, there are some, if again to use the term, cultural differences across the generations. I mean, the millennials, and certainly as we get like to Gen Z, Gen Y, Gen Z, were brought up in a different world. They were brought up in a digital world. Their values today, in many respects, are different, and what they expect on the job in terms of independence, in terms of so-called authenticity, in terms of career development. And once again, as we try to understand individuals from different cultures, that generational difference in many respects is like a cultural difference. And it's up to us to try to understand. I mean, for example, I know that Gen Z is interested in their own mental health, and they're interested in sustainability and in inclusivity. What are we doing as an organization to make sure we understand those differences? And certainly technology and digital approach to so much of work that they're more comfortable with. So to look at that culturally as well is kind of an interesting way to frame it and use some of the good points that were mentioned today by Rigoberto and Andreea, and frankly by yourself, Ed, in terms of understanding culture can apply to dealing with the generations as well.
Andreea?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with Ken. I echo the idea of the impact of the culture when it comes to again, thinking about the new assignment. Ultimately, it's important to know how to better fit in the new area that you basically move to. If you were to ask me what I can do for the first thing when I come to California, well, first of all, I'm going to call you, and then the second thing is I need to know what are the similar things that I can see there, so I can have my comfort zone and I can be set up for success. And then we can figure things out.
Well, Ken lives right across the street or now down the street from Universal Studios, I think, and Hollywood, Burbank. And I live here in downtown San Diego, which don't have any studios, but has a lot of good beaches and boardwalks and bars and restaurants, which are perfect for tourists. Bring money. It's expensive.
Foreign investment.
It doesn't matter. So thank you guys for being on this experimental launch of a new program series. We're going to continue it. You're certainly welcome to join in the next. I'll certainly announce what it's all about, but this kind of format hopefully will remain. I've learned from you, and I think the audience out there has too. Rigo, thanks very much for your insight.
Thanks, Ed, for inviting me again. A pleasure to meet you, Andrea. Okay, nice to see you
Right.
again.
So I'd like to ask a favor of all of you to think about somebody who you'd like to invite to join this circle. I don't want a big group because that'll hurt the interchange. But we want to do a lot of these programs, like one a week on basically the same theme, but changing it, growing it, and developing it. And that can happen logically if you think of just one other person that could be a good fit. Okay, thank you. I love
Thank you.
this. I'll be sending you the program links, the video and the audio, as well as the speaker notes from the note takers here. And you'll have the full rights to chop it up and make reels or little ads out of it for your own use. I don't care. I'm going to put it out on my network, which is primarily LinkedIn, but also X and Facebook and YouTube. Free subscription. If you haven't subscribed yet to my YouTube channel, it's free. We're trying to get to 1,000 members of Global TV Talk Show, because then YouTube will send us leads when we get to a certain level. Are you listening,
Oh,
YouTube?
okay.
Hello. Thanks very much for your attention and participating. This has been a learning experience for me. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you. Bye.
Be well all.
Thank you.
Bye.